Awesome. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our Doctor of Pharmacy student panel. So we're just going to be going through some common questions that are really relevant to when people are trying to decide if they want to pursue pharmacy school at Ohio State. So I have four current Doctor of Pharmacy students here at Ohio State with me on this panel right now. So before we jump into it, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Kristen Torrance. I work for the College of Pharmacy here at Ohio State, doing admissions and recruitment for the program. And then I will have our four current students. They can each share their name, what year they are in pharmacy school, and then we're just going to jump into talking about some common questions that people have when they're trying to decide. So Elizabeth, if you want to start us off.
Sure. My name's Elizabeth. I'm a current P2 here in the College of Pharmacy, and I also went to Ohio State for undergrad.
Awesome. Thanks, Elizabeth. Lindsay.
Go ahead,
Maddie.
Lindsay.
Maddie, go.
Well, my name's Maddie. I'm also a current P2 student here in the PharmD program, and I also went to Ohio State for my undergrad degree.
I'm Lindsay. I'm a P3, and I also did go to Ohio State for undergrad.
I'm Romina. I am a P2 and I went to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio for undergrad.
Awesome. Well, thank all of you guys for being here today. We really appreciate just your willingness to chat and share what you guys know about what it's like to be in the program with the folks watching. So I know a lot of you said you went to Ohio State for undergrad. Romina, you have a little bit of a different perspective since you came from an institution that wasn't OSU. So I'm just wondering if each of you could share a little bit about what led you to choosing to either remain at Ohio State and continue your education here or choose Ohio State for the first time. What about our pharmacy school here at OSU really stuck out to you and made you want to come?
I can go. I, of course, decided to go to Ohio State when I was in high school, but now that I'm in pharmacy school, I can really appreciate the proximity to the medical center. We have a lot of great pharmacists over there who also teach us, so it's great to learn from them. And just the number of other health colleges on the campus and how involved we are with them is really cool, in my opinion. And just Columbus in general, I really like the city, and there's a ton of opportunities here.
I could go next. I also decided out of high school that I was going to come to Ohio State for the pharmacy program after my undergraduate degree. But I just really liked kind of the pageantry that's associated with Ohio State. I feel like when I originally said I was going there for undergrad, I had a lot of positive comments, not only about obviously the very good football program here, but about our programs in general too. So it's always fun being in different states, or where I'm from originally in Chicago, and wearing an Ohio State t-shirt or anything, and always getting a OH thrown my way. So I really appreciate our alumni association.
I took a gap year between undergrad and grad school. So then I had applied to a bunch of different pharmacy schools because I was like, oh, maybe I'll try to see if somewhere else maybe I'd fit better there or something like that. But I really was drawn to the sense of community that I had experienced in undergrad, and I feel like that's still sort of the same in grad school too. One thing that I think is really awesome is that all of our classmates, we all for the most part work together. It's not like other colleges that I've experienced where people are competing against each other. Everyone's trying to or team up or work together, and that was something that I really liked. Also, I liked the how accessible different resources are through faculty, the Med Center, Columbus in general, everything like that. And one thing I've been telling a lot of students I've been talking to recently, because every time you ask someone the question, why do you like this school, or why did you pick this school? And they always say the sense of community or something. And I just want to emphasize that at least when I say it, and I feel like the other people on this panel say it, that like they're being genuine, like they're not just trying to be like, oh, community's great and stuff. Like we really do feel that at Ohio State, and I just want to emphasize that that's something that's like really important to us. It's not just a cliche.
Coming from like out of the Ohio State, I don't know, like I didn't go undergrad here or anything. I was like applying to a bunch of places. But I Columbus is like really just home for me because I grew up in the Columbus area. So it was just kind of like, oh, like I'm very close to family here. But on top of that, there's just so many different opportunities that you can have here, especially with the Ohio State Western Medical Center. There's Mount Carmel Health Systems, there's Ohio Health Systems, and then there's just a vast variety of community pharmacies, independent pharmacies, and there's just a lot of opportunity here, which I was really drawn to as well.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Yeah, Lindsay, I really like what you said just about the community here. I think that's very true that our students do say that it is like a really strong community. And even though Ohio State is such a large institution, it does feel like a much smaller college at the College of Pharmacy. I'm wondering if you guys could just talk a little bit about how you were able to make friends and build community here in the PharmD program at OSU. Yeah, I guess just how are those relationships cultivated amongst peers?
I think a big part of that is getting involved. We have a lot of student orgs on campus. And at least in my experience, I've gotten to know people who are in my class and even older, which is always helpful for advice and things like that. I work with a lot of my classmates at my internship, and we also have lab groups. So I found that I get really close to the people I stand next to in lab because you're with them the entire time. So lots of opportunities to facilitate those relationships.
Yeah, I would agree with Elizabeth. Definitely student organizations, because obviously it's great to be involved and kind of get those experiences and build upon maybe some leadership development skills. But because we have so many different organizations at Ohio State, you can really take advantage of those to join more of a niche organization, if you like, just to so you can meet people that have similar interests to you and kind of figure out what their next steps are in terms of like career goals. And maybe you can follow their pathway as well. If it's an older student, you can kind of gain a little bit of mentorship through that as well. So I would say that that's definitely something that I've tried to take advantage of here at Ohio State. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I definitely made a lot of friends P1 year just by talking to people because we're all kind of in the same boat and everyone truly is trying to make friends. So everyone's pretty open to just talking or hanging out or letting you sit at like a table with them or whatever. But then also like as I've gone through the years, like my friends now that are the people that I like talk to the most aren't necessarily like people that I was the closest with during my first year. It kind of just like I said, the community, like you all are together all the time. You kind of learn more about each other as you go on. And like, yeah, I'm maybe not like best friends with the people that I was like friends with P1 year, but we still talk a lot. Like we'll text about homework questions, or like if I see, like I know my friend likes cats. So like if I see a cute cat or something, I'll like send her a picture of it. Like we just still all sort of have a relationship with each other, even if we're not like best friends.
Yeah, coming outside of like not from like Ohio State and everything, like at first I was really nervous because I was like, oh my God, there's so many people here that went to Ohio State for undergrad. So many people who are like, oh yeah, we were all in classes together the last 4 years. And at first, like walking into orientation, especially, I was like super nervous. But then, like, I think my first day, I met like one of my best friends, Maddie. So, I mean, that was just, you really just like walk in and like everyone is just so welcoming and everyone just, yeah, just wants to like build that community. And yeah, with the organizations as well, I think that really helped a lot of us like get connected to the people who are like a little bit older than us as well. And yeah, and then everyone just like really just wants to have like that mentor kind of friendship as well, especially with people who are kind of above us. They always want to like be like, hi, like, how are you doing? Like, how is this class going? Is there anything I can help you with? Which I've always really appreciated from everybody.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like student organizations, great way to get involved. People are just very open, especially coming right into making new friends. And from what you said reminded me just about our mentorship program. So we have something here to the folks watching called the Peer Leader Scholars Program, where older pharmacy students, so P2s and P3s, sign up to mentor younger incoming P1 students. So orientation week, our new incoming students, the P1s, everyone is assigned to a peer leader scholar, who gets to be like their buddy that week, their mentor, just a great contact to have. They'll hang out outside of orientation. The peer leader scholars will host, I think this past year they had a happy hour that everyone went to like after one of the orientation days. So things like that. So yeah, it sounds like there really is a great way to build community amongst peers. I'm sort of wondering on the flip side, I know that our PharmD classes range from about like 120 to around 135 students. Our P1 class this year was on that larger side. Do you find that the faculty within the PharmD program make themselves accessible to you, or with that class size being large? Like, what is that like?
Yeah, honestly, like that's kind of also another reason why I decided to stay at Ohio State was because I knew a lot of the professors from undergrad. Um, but I think the vast majority of them are super approachable. And even if they don't necessarily remember you, like they still want to have a conversation with you. Like, we were talking about it before this, but I just went to a lunch with the dean and like some of her donors and council members and things like that. And I sat down at a table and a professor that I had like at the very beginning of my P1 year for maybe like a month sat down next to me and we just like started talking, and she didn't necessarily like remember my name, but she knew that I was a third year student, and I reintroduced myself, and then we talked about how much I've grown and like different things have changed since P1 year. And I thought that was awesome that like they still want to be invested in your lives and see how you're growing, and they're invested in your education. So even though the classes might be a little bit larger, I still think that they do care about you and your success and like your well-being.
I would definitely agree with that. And another thing that the college kind of facilitates for you is you get a faculty advisor. I meet with mine at least once a semester, and she's always willing to help out in whatever way she can, which is really nice. And then you can make connections with other members of the faculty. So yeah, lots of opportunities for that. And that's one of the benefits of being at a smaller college.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what both Elizabeth and Lindsay have said so far. And I know even after class, like our professors definitely make themselves readily available to us for not only questions about what was just talked about that day, but just kind of in general. I think it's good to keep in mind also that our professors, for the most part, are also practicing pharmacists. So they're a really great connection to have, not only to build your network, but maybe they know someone who can let you in on a research opportunity or get you an internship. And I feel like everybody's very willing to help you with that. Even if they don't necessarily share the same interests as you in terms of your career goals, chances are they know somebody who can help connect you to that better.
Yeah, I've never really had a professor who didn't answer an email or wasn't willing to stick around after class for like even just a couple minutes to just go over something that's super quick question and like super like, okay, hey, I have a question about this. And like, oh, it's just this, and this. And do you need like any other explanations? Like we can meet at another time. And they're always very open to like having office hours as well where you can meet, or times outside of that fit your schedule. And I've just always found that super helpful. And it's really gotten me through a lot of classes as well.
Awesome. Well, that is great to hear. So I know all of you are at least in your second year, if not third year of pharmacy school. But looking back, I am wondering if you guys could tell our viewers just a little bit about what your transition from undergrad was like to pharmacy school. If there were any surprises or challenges, maybe it was easier than you thought. Yeah, I guess just speak a little bit about how that transition went. and if you had to make any major adjustments.
Sort of like I mentioned earlier, we're all coming in, you're all in the same boat. Like even if you went to a different school, had a different major, like you don't feel like you have a strong background in biochem or something like that. I feel like at least the first couple months of P1 year, the courses really work to get you all on the same page. So you're all thinking the same thing. And I remember being, because like I'd been out of school for a year. I was worried about trying to jump back in and like trying to remember my study habits and how I studied best and trying to manage like work-life balance and everything. And I definitely um felt like, oh my gosh, like I like how is everyone else doing all this stuff? Like they're all doing so great and I feel like I'm like having trouble and stuff like that. And come to find out like everyone was feeling that way. So I don't know. I would say just like even though what you're feeling might be uncomfortable, like just know that other people in your class are probably dealing with like a little bit of imposter syndrome as well. Um and that like that's also another way that you can make connections. Like you can be like, wow, that exam was so hard, wasn't it? Like, oh my gosh. And then like you build a friendship with someone that way because you're kind of commiserating over how hard something might have been or if you didn't do well on something. And yeah, I would just say try to like understand and know that other people are feeling that way as well.
I completely agree with all of that too. P1 year was a big transition for me because even just the way we're in module classes instead of taking like 4 classes at a time was a big change. But everyone was super supportive and like Lindsay said, everyone's going through the same thing. Like it's okay. And I think something to expect is that a lot of this is new content you haven't ever really learned before, so you probably will have to study differently. So I think just being open is really helpful because it is a big change. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I think that something that I wasn't expecting that was going to be a transition for me was I feel like this is going into pharmacy school was the first year that I was a little bit more financially independent. And I felt like I was doing a lot more like adulting things, especially since we were in the classroom from like 6:30 to 4:30 sometimes, majority of the week. And I definitely had to get a little bit more a better handle on maybe like meal prepping at the beginning of the week or just making sure that I was organizing my time efficiently in order to kind of fit everything in that I wanted to that week. So I think it's definitely worthwhile to not only reassess your study habits as well, but to kind of assess your time management and kind of go in with a plan and be willing to adjust as well. I think is important.
I would agree with that as well. Especially with the complete change of just like how classes are structured because we're really only doing one class at a time and sometimes they're go from like a week long to like 2 months long. It's like kind of difficult to like always kind of just change like how you think with the different professors as well. So that was a big change for me, especially the first semester. But yeah, we're all like really just trying to get through it as well and trying to like be supportive of one another, which I think has been really easy for all of us because none of us are like the type of people to be like, oh, you don't understand this. Like, no, like we're all like in this together, which is really nice. We're all like this one big like team and community. And even the people who are older than us, so like for us it'd be like the P3s right now. Like they were super supportive when we were all P1s and they would always be willing to help out as well.
Got it. So it sounds like it was definitely different than undergrad. Pharmacy school can be a little more intense, especially the way the courses are structured at Ohio State. Instead of being in 4 at a time, you're just in 1 at a time. So it's a little more intense, new content you're learning. So it sounds like people had to change some study habits up a bit. But that's a positive thing, you know, being able to adapt with the changes as they come. I know you all talked about time management, Maddie, especially you, how that was something you had to focus on and learn how to do a little bit better. Do you feel now like you are all able to have like a strong like school life balance? Like, do you have social lives outside of pharmacy school? Do you work outside of pharmacy school? Is it all studying all the time? Like, what could you tell our prospective students about what to expect once they're in professional school?
I think once you're in professional school, you have to be really intentional with your time. It's easy to be like, oh my gosh, I have to study all the time, but that's not healthy. Just like never studying is not healthy. So it's important to find that balance, and something I do. It might not work for everyone, but I like to block off time on my calendar to study, and then I block off like go to yoga, go to happy hour, things like that, just to make sure I'm fitting in that balance. But it does have to be intentional. And I think that's part of school, is learning how to do that.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
thing
Mhm.
that I kind of didn't have P1 year, but I do now is like a daily routine almost. Because I'm kind of a creature of habit, but like it might be like more annoying, but I do wake up like earlier than I need to in the morning so I can like get up. I like to run, and like that's something that helps me like with my physical and mental health, and then also give me a break from school. So I like try to get up, go for a run, like eat breakfast, and then I'm like, okay, time to go study. Cause then like I'll maybe have a couple hours before I need to go to class. And I'm like, okay, I can go study for a little bit. Usually there's other people around, so then like if you need a little break you can chat with people. um but then sort of like Elizabeth said, yeah, I do block off time because I do have two jobs. So a lot of people either have one job, two jobs, or I know like a couple people that don't have a job at all. So like you don't have to feel pressured to get a job if you can't, if you feel that like it's not feasible for you, especially in the first year because of the transition. Um, so also just keep that in mind too, because everyone else might be talking about like working, and that's just not something that's in your schedule for you, and that's okay.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with everything that they said and just being intentional with your time. I know personally, I also like to block off time in my calendar, Elizabeth, and I have it color coordinated. So even things that are like a happy hour, like all social events are in red. So I make sure that everything, when I look at my month and kind of what I plan, that I'm still taking time to myself, and not just doing all pharmacy all the time. I think that was a really good piece of advice that I got from an older student, was to make sure going into school that you have something like just to yourself that you're not as willing to kind of bend on. So I know some people do, um like in the fall semester, my friends and I know Romina was in there too, but we would always get together on Monday nights and do batch nights, like at my house, or maybe we'd go to our other friend's house. And that was something that we never missed. Even if we had like lab in the morning, we would just kind of bring our stuff, and then during the commercial breaks, we would go over things together. So even though we were still taking like a wellness break, I know people would call it, or like a mindfulness break, um, we were still taking time for ourselves at the end of the day. So I think that's definitely something that's helped me be able to be intentional with my time and make sure that I'm getting in things that I enjoy too.
I when I first started being here, because I do live a little bit farther away, so I do have to add in that extra travel time of like the 25 to 30 minutes to get here to campus and everything. For me, the work school life balance, because I do also have two jobs, it was a little difficult at first. Because at first I was just like, oh, like I'll be fine. Like we're starting off with just like transitions, which is just this one class where you take for a week and you like really just start to like slowly just like seep into pharmacy school and get to really know your peers and everything. So in my head I was like, oh, I can work more during this. This isn't that bad. And then things get a little crazy as the classes go by, and some classes will be harder than others. But I had to figure out the way to say like no to things, because I'm really bad at that. I have this thing of like FOMO. I don't like to miss stuff. So, and I don't like to miss out on working shifts and everything. Because I do find that when I work, I feel like I learn more and I learn a little bit better. But So my work school I found slowly has been getting better. I'm still working on it too. So it's not something that you have to figure out right away, and like it doesn't mean that you won't be successful or anything, but it is something that me personally I took a little bit longer to figure out, but I'm still slowly getting there as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's helpful. That's helpful to know. I know that's a big question a lot of people have when they're considering pharmacy school is, will I be able to work in the program? If so, how much? So it sounds like you guys work part-time mainly, maybe one job, maybe two. Some people don't work at all. So yeah, that's cool. It kind of just depends on your study habits, how you intake information the best. So sweet. Another common question I know that prospective students tend to have is, what is housing like on campus? Where do you guys live when you go to pharmacy school? Do you live with other undergrads? Do you have to drive into campus? Do you walk? Are the neighborhoods safe? So I don't know if you guys could each just share a little bit about what you do for housing, how you found that, and then I guess what parking is like, if you pay for parking, if you don't, share a little bit about that.
So I found my roommate, I've lived with her for like 3 years now, or like this is the third year. I believe, I don't know if they still do this, but at least when we were accepted to pharmacy school, we all got put in a Facebook page with like everyone in our class, and people just kind of introduced themselves and said if they were looking for a roommate. So then I just started reaching out to people and like, yeah, these are some people that I'd like never met before. And like my roommate and I, we were joking, we're like, yeah, we're gonna go on a dinner date together. And then we got to know each other a little bit better to see if we'd be able to live together. And yeah, so we lived a little bit further from campus my first year, but it still wasn't wholly unfeasible to get to campus. I feel like it's pretty centrally located, that you can live many different places slightly off campus, but not be surrounded by like undergrads and Greek life and stuff like that. But like there's more community type houses and apartments that you can live in. And then I always drive to campus, but I drive to a parking lot that's like slightly off campus. And my parking pass is fairly cheap for the whole year. And then I take a bus that goes directly from that lot to a little transit hub for all the buses right outside the pharmacy building. Like it makes no other stop. So it's like a super reliable way to get there because all the med center staff takes it as well. So it has to be constantly running. And honestly, like I found that works best for me, but I know some people park at the football stadium, which is super close to the pharmacy building as well. And I know a bunch of people that also walk too.
I kind of have done both, like closer to campus, and now I'm a little bit farther away. I'll say last year when I lived kind of off of High Street where a lot of undergrads live, there was just like a difference in lifestyle, at least for me, at least. A lot of them are like going out a lot, and which that's great, but at the same time, when I was in pharmacy school, I had to study, and so I chose to move somewhere a little bit farther away, but it's only like a 10-minute drive. I don't even have to get on the highway. I used apartments.com a lot. It was my best friend for a little bit last year. I believe there's housing on campus, but most of my friends choose to live either somewhere further away or somewhere where they can walk. As for parking, I park at the stadium. It's like less than a 10-minute walk, so it's not bad at all. Yeah, definitely doable.
Yeah, I had a similar experience to Elizabeth. I used to live like right past High Street, just because I also went here for undergrad. So that was kind of where my friends were and my roommate at the time. But I definitely outgrew it a little bit once I joined pharmacy school. So I live on South Campus now, and it's probably about a 10-minute walk from the College of Pharmacy. I don't have a car on campus, so that was something that was important to me, was making sure that I had a reasonable walk from campus. And I also found that through apartments.com, just like Elizabeth. So
I live a little farther away, so I'm about like 25 to 30 minutes east. I'm out in New Albany because I live with my family. And that saves a lot of money on rent, which is awesome. But yeah, I do park at the stadium lot or across one of the rivers. There's a bridge that you can cross over. And it's about the same distance and everything. I park like I believe that's where the what's it, College of Veterinarian Medicine, I believe, is right there. And that has a really good, like, accessible parking. I've only had an issue once with parking, and that's because I came during like prime time of like everyone's on campus on this specific day, and one of the lots was closed for a football game set up because there was a Saturday, Big Noon Saturday was on that day or the next day or something. So that lot was closed. But that was my only issue. I've never really had a huge issue with parking though. And the drive wasn't that bad. I'm like go on the highway and everything. So I try to leave like I'm about 30 minutes out, so I leave about 45 minutes before so I can get time to like walk and then like from my car and everything. And then if I have like some traffic, I have some wiggle room as well. But I've never really had like an issue to get to campus or anything. But something that I've really found helpful was that the professors are really like they're always checking their emails before class as well. So if I'm having an issue getting to class or anything, I just give them a quick email and I'm like, hey, like I'm running a little late. There's this big traffic jam. I believe there's an accident down the street. I'm just going to be a couple minutes late. I'm so sorry. And they usually respond within the next couple minutes. So that's always really helpful as well.
I was also talking with someone the other day, because she was from Chicago and was wondering what the transit situation is like in Columbus. And I was like, it is nothing like Chicago, but we also have, like the bus that I take is a campus bus. So there's buses that go all around campus because campus is big and that's like solely concentrated in campus. But then there's also buses that go through like all of Columbus and the suburbs. So I was like, if you do want to live further and you don't have a car, you can always take like the Columbus City bus. That's just another way of getting around. And like I said, it also goes out to the suburbs. So like, even if you do live like 15 minutes away, like there's probably a bus stop nearby that you can hop on and get to campus pretty decently quick.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lindsay. Those Ohio State buses are free. You just walk on, and those Columbus public transportation ones, they're free to Ohio State students, actually. So with the student IDs that all of our students have, you just swipe it and walk right on. You don't have to pay. So super convenient. Yeah, it sounds like, Maddie, I know you mentioned you live in the south of campus, and from what I've heard from our PharmDs, it sounds like a lot of them are doing that and kind of walking in if they don't have cars or they didn't want to bring a car or pay for parking. And then sort of what the rest of you are saying, very common to get parking options that are a little bit on the cheaper side and bus in from a lot or stadium lot. There are some more expensive parking options if you're willing to pay. Unfortunately, OSU does make you pay for parking just because it's such a large campus. But yeah, totally accessible. Like you said, Ermina, you've pretty much never had an issue. I've never had an issue either. So awesome. Moving on to our next question. I'm wondering if you guys could tell our viewers if there are any research opportunities for PharmD students at Ohio State. And if so, how would somebody get involved in that?
I
So
think research is, sorry.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. I was going to say research is something you have to kind of seek out, but also with being next to the Wexner Medical Center, they send out like a call out for students who are interested in projects, I think twice a year, maybe 3. And you can tell them what kind of research you're interested in, and you get paired with a pharmacist. So it's a really great experience to network a little bit and do research. And a lot of our faculty research as well. So definitely a lot going on.
I was gonna say I don't participate in research at Ohio State, but I've had opportunities through my job I work for a hospital in the Ohio health system. And so it just involved me reaching out to like one of our pharmacists that oversees a lot of research projects. And I was like, hey, I'm interested in like doing some research, like what projects do you have going on? And she sent me a list of like 7 projects and descriptions, and I read them all and was able to pick one that I'm really interested in. And I've been working on that with her and like some med students and doctors. And yeah, so I do think that research is something that you have to seek out if it's something you're interested in, but there are professors in the college that do that, and I think there might be a place on the website where I think it lists like their labs or different things they do. But I know they'll also talk about it in class. Like if they did research, they're like, oh, I did this research project. And
Mhm.
if you think it sounds interesting, you could always reach out to them and see if they have a project you could get on, or even if like they don't and you maybe have a project idea, you could like try proposing that to them. They might be like, oh, that's a really good idea. Like, let's see what we can do with that. So
Yeah, I would definitely just echo everything that Lindsay said. I know that there is a place on the website where you can go through and see who's running what labs, and it's pretty easy to reach out to them. I don't currently participate in any research projects, but I know from friends or just word of mouth, they usually find it on the website, and then maybe we'll send out 15 emails or so, just saying that they're interested and hoping that something sticks, and that it works out at the moment for them. But otherwise, I think that's definitely another space where you can take advantage of talking to your professors. And even if, like I said before, you're not necessarily interested in the research that they're participating in at the moment, they might have a future project, and then you let them know that you're interested, or they might know someone else who's doing a research project that aligns more with your interests. So I would definitely just keep an open mind, and make sure that you're networking effectively in the college too, because like previously mentioned, it is something that you have to seek out on your own.
also LinkedIn. You can
Yep,
just message
LinkedIn's a big
people on
one too.
LinkedIn if you want, and they'll probably answer. So
Awesome. Yeah, sounds like we covered that one. So for the sake of time, we're gonna move on to one of our last questions. So I know that P1 year students tend to be in class pretty much all day from around 8:30 in the morning to around 4:30 in the afternoon. So like you guys were saying, that's much different than undergrad. But I also know that P2, P3 years, a little bit later in pharmacy school, that changes a bit where you're not in class as much all day. You might have some work to do at home watching lectures, and then you're coming into class later in the afternoon. Do you guys like that flipped classroom approach? Do you feel like that's been beneficial to your learning? How do you feel about that?
I know I definitely like it. It allows for a lot more flexibility, and not being in class all day is kind of nice. And then it allows you to use your time with the instructors more effectively. That way you can actually ask the questions that you've been able to think about the day before. And you get a lot more practice that way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Elizabeth. I know, honestly, in my undergraduate courses that utilize the flipped classrooms, active learning sessions, I wasn't a big fan of, but after coming to pharmacy school, I just don't think they were as effectively utilized. I think it's really nice to have the lectures in the morning kind of asynchronously at your own pace. So then, personally, I like to kind of pause my lecture videos and make sure that I'm getting all the content that I need to, from the professors. But then in the afternoon sessions, we have our active learning. So we'll take a quiz at the beginning and make sure that we kind of got those big points that our professors wanted us to gain, and usually around the learning objectives. And then we'll go right into like patient cases and making sure we can apply them. And I think that our facilitators are really great about kind of stopping to look at the big picture of a patient's history and making sure that we're kind of tying in maybe disease states that we learned in previous modules as well. So it's really nice to be able to kind of have that learning space to put our like clinical knowledge, in this small stage, to use.
I agree with everything they said. I was gonna say I don't think I really have anything else. It's just nice to have the flexibility to rewind something if I didn't understand, or I don't know. Sometimes I have the tendency to get drowsy sometimes in class, so like it's nice to be able to watch it at home or wherever I can, like on my terms, so that I can make sure my brain's like fully paying attention to class.
Yeah, I like the flipped classroom a lot. I feel like it's again, like it is like better to like go at your own pace and at your own time. And I personally just never really liked the whole sitting in a lecture having slides be read to me. I was just always like, I can just do this at home by myself. So it's nice that we get that flexibility and also the like accessibility to like all of the lectures after our active learning sessions that we have, because then I can keep reviewing them, especially before an exam, which is really important for me. And yeah, that's about all I have to add for that one.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear that it's been helpful to all of you. You all are enjoying that. So I guess the final question that we'll discuss today, since we're coming up on our time here, is just what advice would the four of you give to incoming students, to people who are thinking about applying to pharmacy school, maybe they've already applied, or feeling a little bit nervous about the big change, but also excited. What's some advice you would give to our viewers?
I was actually thinking about this last night. And I was thinking like, I don't know, in undergrad, you're taking a bunch of different classes. Some you might be interested in, some might just be to like fulfill requirements. But in pharmacy school, like all the classes you're taking are going towards preparing you for like your future, your career. So I would just like, even though it might be hard or difficult, just try to remind yourself that like you're investing in yourself and you're working to like kind of give yourself a good life, hopefully, if that's what you want to do. Like this is your time to invest in yourself. So like if you want to join an organization that maybe your friends aren't or something, you should just do it because it's something that's going to benefit you. So I would just like take the time to reflect on what's important to you and how you're going to grow how you would like to grow as a person, and then use that to invest in yourself like throughout the 4 years that you're in school.
Kind of going off of that, I would say just keep a really open mind. I feel like I learned a ton about myself both in and out of school during Q1 year because it was so different. But now I have a better idea of like what I want to do, what's important to me, and how I function, which I think is really exciting. So just keep an open mind and be ready for growth.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think everybody will get sick of hearing this eventually, but everybody always says that pharmacy is a really small world. So with keeping an open mind, I would say it's important to also not close any doors for yourself. I think that as a I want to help you person major, a lot of people by default have type A personalities. So a lot of people might have had like a set path for them, that they might have determined that, I want to be a pediatric pharmacist. And my first step is, go to a good undergraduate school, get into this pharmacy school, and then go to this residency program. But by not limiting yourself and keeping that open mind to kind of learn about the various routes of pharmacy that you can go into and that it has to offer, I think you would be selling yourself short if you didn't do that. Because I know even today, as a P2, I'm still learning about different career paths in pharmacy that I wouldn't have been exposed to if I kind of started at my original path that I intended on when I came into school. So,
Yeah, I don't have actually very much to add. That was all like really good points. Yeah, the biggest thing for me was not closing doors because when I first got my first job in a community pharmacy setting, I was like, okay, like this is the only job I'm gonna have because this is like what I want to do. And then as the year went by, I started getting more like open to like other aspects of pharmacy, including hospital. So now I work at a hospital and I'm still like trying to figure out like because there's a big difference in everything. So trying to figure out what I want to do. But joining orgs and being open with everybody and asking even people like the P2s and the P3s like how they think like what do they like want to do or like what orgs they're in that they've joined that they've really enjoyed being in, and just being really open to every opportunity, whether you like don't know or if you're not sure or if you're like really set on one thing, just like keep exploring because we have so many different orgs that'll like we have an industry one, we have something for specialty, we have something for neuroscience, I believe. There's like a neuro one. There's just so many different aspects of it, and that I just mean like for my first like couple weeks, I was just exploring every little org. So yeah, just being open really is the biggest thing I have.
Yeah, that sounds like that's really great advice, guys. Sounds like keeping an open mind is just a common theme. And yeah, that's something I think is really nice about the program at Ohio State is not only are there 26 student organizations to choose from, which are gonna help you get a better sense of what's out there, connect you with people, give you more opportunities, but also a third of the total curriculum in the PharmD program, as all of you know, are rotations, and those IPPY and APPY rotations where you're actually out there in a pharmacy setting getting experience. So yeah, it sounds like you don't need to know exactly what kind of pharmacist you're going to be once you start P1 year, but you're going to figure it out. And our program is going to give you a lot of exposure to be able to actually accurately figure that out for yourself. So awesome. Well, thank you, Elizabeth, Lindsay, Maddie, and Romina, all for joining us today. Viewers, if anyone has any questions that they're wondering that they don't feel like were addressed, you can reach out to me at our admissions email at cop-admissions@osu.edu. We would be happy to answer any questions that you all have. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.